in modo da facilitare, magari dare gli esiti dei nostri ultimi tamponi, eccetera, per permettere una terapia antibiotica. Spesso facciamo anche una terapia in vena con ferro quando i bambini sono ospedalizzati. Sicuramente c'è ancora molto lavoro da fare, siamo però molto contenti, sia noi sia tutta l'equipe di specialisti che lavora con noi, di aver affrontato questa avventura. Ringrazio la professoressa Esposito e il professor Gelmetti, che sono i responsabili della pediatria e della dermatologia, gli organizzatori di Debra, tutti gli specialisti che lavorano con noi, e grazie per l'attenzione.
Are there any questions? Okay.
Vorrei sapere come siete organizzati per mettere insieme una giornata paziente. Chi è responsabile per organizzare la giornata?
Yes, I can translate for the translator. The question is about how they organize the day, essentially, the day hospital, how they organize in terms of different activities. Yes, they're responsible, yes.
Allora, in realtà nel nostro centro il pediatra è quello che maggiormente è il case manager del paziente, quindi è il pediatra che decide quali sono gli specialisti che verranno coinvolti di volta in volta. Si decide un po' a priori, si decide anche un po' lì per lì quando arriva il paziente che magari arriva con delle problematiche inaspettate in quel momento. Diciamo che c'è una stretta collaborazione col dermatologo, però il dermatologo resta più poi coinvolto in tutto quello che è l'acute, le medicazioni, le infezioni, mentre il pediatra è quello che in qualche maniera cerca di coordinare tutti gli specialisti, è sempre presente al letto del paziente durante le visite degli specialisti e quindi direttamente con il pediatra, con lo specialista e con le famiglie si cerca di discutere delle strategie e delle decisioni da prendere.
Any other question? Okay, so Rainer, you want to introduce the next?
Can you hear me? I'd like to introduce the next speaker. It's Florian Prinz from the General Hospital in Salzburg. He's an occupational therapist, and he and Hedwig Weiss together wrote a book. It was published in 2012 on occupational therapy. And he will give a talk on occupational therapy in EB, focusing on the independence in everyday life.
Thank you for the kind introduction, ladies and gentlemen. My name is, as Rainer already said, Florian Prinz, and yeah, I've chosen these pictures because to me they represent quality of life and independence in everyday life, because this girl is enjoying her life, and so this is a symbol for me, and this is maybe the symbol over my speech today. When reading this year's program, oh sorry, I don't need a translation at the moment, of the International Debra Congress, I was really happy to find the following statements and questions. How to improve the quality of life in those who are suffering from epidermolysis bullosa, and how to help and support them and their families. Occupational therapy always focuses on how to improve the client's quality of life and how to support independence in everyday life situations. When searching for central keywords to describe what occupational therapy is about, by the way, some of you might better know this profession as ergotherapy, so maybe one of you is confused. The best fitting terms to me are quality of life and independence in everyday life. In many cases, both concepts interact and determine each other. Increasing a person's independence in everyday life situations can automatically lead to a higher quality of life, because it can be an enormous improvement to depend less on someone else's help. Today I'm very pleased to talk about how occupational therapy can contribute to improve the quality of life in EB by supporting independence in everyday life. My presentation is particularly addressed to those living with EB. I'm aware that people and families with EB are all excellent networkers and good at exchanging helpful experiences. Nevertheless, I would like to present a number of practical measures gathered over the years that may complement your spectrum. First of all, I would like to say that occupational therapy interventions always follow a client-directed approach, which means that the client's needs and wishes, their own successful coping strategies, as well as their existing resistances, are a central part of the therapeutic process. Many of the following ideas and practical measures result from feedback from people living with EB and coupled with long-time experience in the occupational therapy treatment of this condition. So, in my opinion, the first question we have to ask is how to identify the client's needs and wishes. And you might, excuse me? Slowly, okay, sorry. Yeah, you might think that this is an easy question, but in my experience it's not, because if you start to ask global questions, then you will in many cases get global answers. So what we did, my colleague, Hedwig Weiss and me, we developed a detailed parental questionnaire asking for successful coping skills and possible restrictions in everyday life activities in children and young adults with EB. This questionnaire is part of our specialist book titled Occupational Therapy and Epidemiology, Polosa, and can be a highly useful resource for occupational therapists, of course, but also for doctors, physiotherapists, nurses, and other health professionals working with people with EB. So let's have a deeper look into the questionnaire. It is structured into 4 main sections labeled self-care, leisure and hobbies, school, and mobility, each of them divided into several sub-issues. This slide shows how the questionnaire is generally structured and how the key can be used and interpreted. By marking the different smileys, I don't know, can I point them? Ah, okay. No, I think it's not important. No. The green, okay. So, by marking the different smileys, the clients themselves or the parents can define whether they are able to perform a specific task very well, well, poorly, not at all, or if help is required. Therefore, and the form also asks whether any assistive devices are used already and which EP-specific coping strategies the clients have already developed. One question, for example, is about the ability of putting on and taking off shoes. There is asked, does your child use special shoes, insert or paddings? Or further below, when it comes up to the handling of fastenings, there is asked, does your child use any adaptive devices or adaptations to make using fastenings easier? So we really try to focus this on EB. Yeah. Don't worry, I'm not going to show you the whole questionnaire because it's quite detailed, but I want to give you some more impression. This page is again concerned with the main issue self-care and includes questions about carrying out body hygiene independently, which is often problematic, especially in DEB. The section on leisure and hobbies is, for example, asking what hobbies or kinds of sports are possible, but also what measures are taken to prevent blistering and injuries when doing so. There are choices given which are composed of successfully practiced activities and measures by people living with EB. The same applies to the conditions needed when going on holiday. So item school tries to find out about abilities like writing with a pen or using a computer. It asks whether any special adaptations are necessary and whether the speed of writing is adequate for school requirements. This may often be a problem in severe hand deformities. But also aspects like integration in class life or participation in gymnastics or handicraft lessons are requested. So item mobility collects data of all aspects of transfer and locomotion, including, for example, the ability of transferring one's body into different positions independently. Further questions are about the possible distances that can be walked or run, and aspects like the use of a of vehicles from tricycle or bicycle up to the use of a wheelchair. Even considerations that must be taken when transporting a child with EB in a car, like for example the use of padded seat belts, are requested. So much for the questionnaire. The practical assessment of activities of daily living, as shown behind, is a major vital aspect of occupational therapy. This can be carried out, for example, by observing and assessing the handling of cutlery or by testing dexterity when small objects as coins or fastenings are handled. After completing the questionnaire and the practical assessment, the client and the therapist together will define the aims of the therapeutic intervention and what skills or abilities should be worked out for the future. So this is why we did this assessment and all the questionnaire. The aim is to find out what to work on, what should we focus on. And this can, for example, happen by developing compensatory grip techniques, by the use of assistive devices or small adaptations, but also by accommodating the individual life, school or work environment, and much more. Okay, we are now done with all the paperwork. Thank you for following my theoretical remarks so far. But now, as I promised in the beginning, it's going to get really practical. I would like to show you a number of very useful and already successfully applied measures and assistive devices to increase independence in everyday life. So many of them are sent to me by people living with EB. Let's start with body hygiene. Taking a bath or shower can be challenging, especially when your mobility is restricted and when you have to take care not to get injured by too much friction when getting in and out the bath tube. Wooden stairs can ease the accessibility. A bathboard can be helpful, like here. A bathboard can be helpful to sit on when getting in and out the bath tube causes too much strain. Alternatively, yeah, you can see this nice lady. A pneumatic bath lifter can be utilized. Another very simple but successful solution concerning toileting originates from a mother with a child living with EB. She just wraps a very casual bath towel around the toilet seat to prevent adhesions of the skin when sitting on the toilet. And it's quite hygienic. You can change it whenever you want. And it doesn't cost a lot of money. It's just a simple but helpful tool. Concerning the manipulation or handling of fastenings, zips can have a ring or loop added to provide an adequate tension for when closing it. A Velcro, a Velcro that closes exactly can be difficult to be opened. A loop added can provide a remedy here too. An ingenious mother designed and crafted this custom-made neoprene shoes you can see here to minimize pressure and prevent injuries while sleeping. We are shifting over to the issue of household activities now because the children obviously become adolescents one day, and being independent in the home should play a big role. This slide shows how a special bottle and jar opener that allows someone with limited finger function to open a bottle or jar. An easily accessible kitchen with a high adjustable working surface can be installed if the use of a wheelchair is necessary. A key bar, as shown, can help opening or locking a door by using the leverage of the bar. Pressure and friction on the skin are thereby reduced. Okay, with regard to mobility and locomotion, I would like to give you some impressive examples how it can work despite restrictions. With some adaptations for special needs, like this special padded steering wheel, with knobs for a woman with EB, driving a car can be possible despite hand deformities. The boy in the left side uses a big, not special, but casual go-kart with appropriate transmission to overcome distances. It's not only helpful, but also fun to him, and he is admired by all the other children in his surroundings. Or the safety scooter reduces the danger of falling and can enable a child to play with peers and give vital experiences in balance and in locomotion. Some examples on leisures and hobbies now. Elbow and knee protectors made of neoprene can be an added help in minimizing pressure and friction while doing sports. Alternative to this, soft insulating material like viscoelastic foam can be added to the outer layers of the bandaging and exposed areas. This child with EP sits in an ozone swimming pool wearing a clothing made of lycra. He uses it to feel more comfortable and also not to get too exposed to the other visitors. Okay, musical instruments like the recorder shown behind can be adapted to the client's needs when finger deformities are restrictive. These images give some more examples how strain can be reduced when a child is integrated in a kindergarten group. This special padded pair of trousers with the special pair of trousers with soft inlays inside the knee pockets were also designed by a clever mom. You can put some soft material inside. An adequate padded toy or vehicle like the rocking horse shown here is, also prevents injuries. Another example for an assistive device that may be useful in kindergarten or school are the tabletop scissors. They can even be used with hands which are fixed in cocoon-like adhesions. A touchpad or to type or write on can increase the speed of writing when finger deformities are restricted. Well, these were just a few examples out of many. You will find most of the shown and many other examples and practical advices in our book, Occupational Therapy in Epidermolysis Bullosa. What I have been talking about just now represents only one chapter of the book. Before I come to an end, I would like to give you a quick overview what else you will find in there. The book provides, of course, some general information about the condition EB because it is also addressed to therapists or health professionals never get in touch with EB before. So I think this is an important but not really big part. Then a lot of space is dedicated to the issue of supporting motor development in early childhood because to date experiences shows that nearly all the assessed children with EBS, GEB and DEB do have delays in motor development of varying degrees. Okay, another chapter deals with the treatment of tactile, vestibular and proprioceptive perception because it has been shown that a lack of experience in the area of perceptual development can appear as a result of delays in motor development and physical restrictions caused by the condition. Another 2 chapters relate to the development of hand functions and graphomotor skills. Plenty of room has been given to the measures of hand rehabilitation. This is a very important issue for many children and adults with EB and a special field of occupational therapy. Therapeutic measures like prophylactic splinting, like here, this is a prophylactic splint. Anti-wrapping bandages, physical exercises against contractures or postoperative splinting and postoperative rehabilitation are elaborated and explained. Moreover, you will find a chapter about the rehabilitation of the foot, which has been adapted by my colleague Ms. Weiss for people with EB. So, all of this and more you will find in the specialist book. This was written with the aim to provide well-proven and practical measures with relevance to everyday life situations. Yeah, the book is addressed to health professionals, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, but it's also comprehensive, we think also comprehensive, and useful for people and families living with EB. For any interest, I have brought some product flyers with information on where to get the book. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Florian. Are there any questions? Do you?
Can I ask a question? Of course, I find your presentation very interesting. I think that this example you gave is an example of how family and people can be creative in finding new ways to increase everyday life. I was thinking about, because you have now worked in this, with this activity, it took you some time, but you collected examples that now are existing. I was thinking, if someone now elaborates new ideas, are you thinking about, and you are collecting many of them, for the new that can come in the future, are you thinking about a place where you can possibly share this kind of pictures and ideas so that everybody can access, other than people that have direct contact with you, for example, in an, I don't know, in a modern way, like internet or something?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea because up till now, the book has been published. I've received a lot of ideas from all over the world. So, and I think this will increase. So I don't know what do you suggest? What kind of platform?
Well, maybe with Debra International, we can have a section where we can put pictures of new ideas of this kind, so that everybody in the world can access and see what people have created to be able to drive or to play or to make exercises, for example.
Many of these examples are already in the book, but I get a lot of new stuff because people now know that we are kind of collecting these things, or it's one small part of the occupational therapeutic process. But yeah, it would be a great idea to publish them.
So there is no forum at the moment, but
no,
the Big-Clinic page or the Debra International page would be an option, but we would have to prepare that.
We can discuss this. Thanks.
No, solo un intervento, è molto interessante quello che... Sì, è molto interessante quello che è stato descritto, soprattutto... Più forte? Sì, ho detto semplicemente, mi hai anticipata, e comunque è molto interessante quello che è stato descritto. E mi pare che questo libro sia disponibile? Ok, va bene. È disponibile già oggi?
Yes, this book is already available. I know it because I already have it. You can buy it on internet or
Amazon, Springer website.
Ah,
yes,
non qui.
Springer, yes,
Non
Amazon.
All over the world.
No, he doesn't have them, of course, now.
No.
But on internet, you will receive it
Va
in
bene,
a couple of days.
Grazie.
Amazon.
Because first it was planned to publish it only in German, and then we thought, no, it's a too small group that can use it. So then it was translated into English, and I think it was a good idea. Yeah, please. Italiana?
Esiste un lavoro simile che hanno fatto dei ragazzi che fanno parte della nostra associazione. Un lavoro simile lo hanno fatto i nostri ragazzi della Debra Italia e non è stato ancora pubblicato, non abbiamo ancora messo mano alla pubblicazione, però sarebbe interessante confrontare il lavoro che hanno fatto loro col vostro lavoro. E poi volevo informare che c'è su Facebook una pagina che hanno creato i nostri ragazzi che trovate CERD, CERD, Comunità Europea Ragazzi Debra. Lì semmai si possono scambiare informazioni interessanti proprio nelle terapie occupazionali e nel materiali per aiutare le persone affette da EB.
Yeah, great, good to know. This is, I think, what now starts, because there are, if you have seen the other presentation, there was no occupational therapist on the presentation, because this profession is in some countries not really much developed. So what now starts is that people start to discuss about and start to collect all the experiences, and this would be an important part, I think, because I didn't know that this exists, so it's really important resource for us. Thank you. You have to write down it for me, the address, afterwards. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Florian. So we're going to have the next speaker. There has been a change in the program. Dr. Tadini can be here, but he will be substituted by Professor Esposito. Professor Esposito is has many titles, I don't know which one to use. The director of the Clinica de Marchi, and she will speak about the new project, a new research project that the Milan Policlinico Cagranda is now undertaking. It's just started, So we will have an update.
Oh yes, I'm waiting for. Okay.
Florian, this is not yours. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for the kind invitation and also for the invitation of the groups from our center. As I told also yesterday, I'm very grateful, especially to Cinzia, that have worked a lot for creating the center in Milan, and I think that our expertise, even in other uncommon diseases, but however multisystemic diseases, is extremely useful in order to improve the assistance of EB patients, as well as in order to start with new research protocols. In our center, we are actively involved in several different research projects, and of course, the project that I will present now is a new project that has an aim of the reparation of wounds in EB patients. First of all, we have to start. No, non va perché si è bloccato. Ma perché me l'ha schiacciato? Hai capito? Deve guidarlo il tecnico. Perché... Okay. Our protocol is focused on piastrinic gel. What is piastrinic gel, first of all? Piastrinic gel is a gel prepared by standard blood banking procedures from routine platelets concentrates obtained from Buffy coats. So Buffy coats are obtained from blood donors in our blood bank. And platelet concentrates are prepared by platelet activation with human thrombin or commercial batroxobin. So if we enter in details, you can see that we start from the units of whole blood. Then we obtain the Buffy coats. Thereafter, we diluted the Buffy coats, and we obtained the concentrate with a standard number of platelets, that is around 2 million platelets per microliter. Thereafter, we prepared different aliquots of platelets, and then platelets are activated before use. So this means that we need the blood bank. In our hospital, we have a huge blood bank that covers almost all the region, all the Lombardy region, that is the biggest of Italy. And then the clinicians, when have the patients that is interested in this kind of approach, inform the blood bank that activate the platelets, and then the platelets are available for use. So if we consider these platelet concentrates, you can see that the concentration of growth factors is extremely high. So we have a very high concentration of PDGF, TGF, FGF, VEGF, EGF, and also IGF. And of course, with this concentration, we can work in the repairment of the wounds. Our first experience is an experience of our blood bank in elderlies with hypomobility problems, in which they try to treat recalcitrant ulcers using this kind of platelet gel. And if you look at the slides and you look at the results in 11 patients, you can see that they treat quite elderly people with an age higher than 80 years, with important ulcers. This is the size of the ulcers. But after treatment, apart from 3 cases, in the others, they saw a significant reduction in the size of the ulcer, with a reduction also in the cost of treatment. So the reduction was significant in comparison with standard treatment. So at the end, this kind of approach permitted in these elderlies that had important ulcers to reduce the size of the ulcers and also to reduce the cost of treatment, because the cost of treatment was reduced of 10% in comparison with standard medication. So starting from this data, our blood bank worked also in elderly with diabetes. Again, with the same methods. So the clinicians, when had these ulcers that was significant, informed the blood bank activated the platelets, and then the piastrinic gel was available. And if if you look at the results, after a weekly treatment for 19 weeks, you can see that this kind of ulcers was significantly repaired. So, starting from this information, our blood bank received from the Italian authorities the patent for this kind of gel, and they prepared a new gel from cord blood. Why from cord blood? Because cord blood is extremely safe. You have no problem in terms of viral infection, because you have also the information regarding the history of the mothers and so on. And then you have also a concentration of growth factors that is higher than that obtained from gel obtained from standard blood. So at the end, this is the preparation starting from cord blood, where you can see that it is quite difficult to obtain very good results, but of course this is a huge work, but it is extremely safe and also very useful in terms of growth factor. And in this way, we obtained this umbilical cord blood that is extremely rich and that has to be used, however, again, within 1 hour from the activation. So considering this kind of product, for which our hospital has Italian patent, we have considered its use in patients with EB. Why? Because, of course, in EB patients, we have these important ulcers, and these ulcers may have a progression in neoplastic diseases. So the improvement in these ulcers can have a significant impact in the quality of life of the patients, as well as in the reduction in cancer-associated death. And for this reason, we created a protocol with the aim of comparing in the same patients this kind of human cord blood-derived platelets concentrates in order to look at the reduction in the time of reepithelialization, in order to look at the avoidance of superinfection, early cancerization, and also in the reduction of cost for treatment. We prepared a protocol with the following inclusion criteria. So we consider to enroll patients aged between 8 to 18 years, to include those with dystrophic EB or junctional EB, and also those with severe epidermolytic EB, to treat those with recalcitrant ulcers with a diameter maximum of 5 centimeters, already unsuccessfully treated with advanced medication. We would like to compare bilateral location in the arms, legs, or also in the trunk, comparing the standard dressing in one leg, for example, to this new treatment in the other leg in the same patient, and then to enroll only those that have a negative history for skin cancer, after the assent of the patient and also the written informed consent of the parents. So our treatment consists in a weekly application of this platelets concentration and also of the standard medication for 3 months. It is, of course, quite long because the patient has to come to the center every week, but we think that in order to look at the results, in the next phase we can also consider dressing with this kind of platelets concentrates. But in this preliminary phase, it is very important to be sure that the treatment is well done, and so that the treatment has to be conducted directly in the center with physicians, nurses, and with all the staff that is able to perform good kind of medication. We will look at clinical and epidiascopic measurements of the ulcers for the time and quality of reepithelialization, and we will also perform a biopsy at the beginning and at the end of treatment. What we have already done now and what we will do in the next phase. At the moment, the project has been already approved by our ethics committee, and this is an important point. Debra supported us, and so we are very happy about this. And during the last summer, we have prepared this kind of gel, because also the preparation is quite difficult. Then the next phase are represented in this slide. You can see that the first point is a sensibilization of families and patients. And so now in this room, I would like to ask you whether you know persons that also are followed in different centers and are interested in participating in this kind of project, because we are now in the phase of the identification of patients. In the next Monday, so tomorrow, we will present the study to 2 families, but I'm also happy whether Debra can support us in finding patients that would like to participate in this kind of study. We understand that the distance from Milano can be a problem for a weekly treatment, but however, taking into account the need of platelet activation, so this activation that has to be done 1 hour before the use of this kind of gel, of course we need the patient in the center, even in different hours of the day. It is not a problem for us, but of course the patient has to come. Then we consider to do the study in winter, so that also the patient can be in a better condition than what usually happened during the summer period. I hope that in the next autumn we will have at least the first preliminary results. We consider the enrollment of 10 patients. We have evaluated the study sample, and we consider that with 10 patients we can have interesting information, and we can also consider the possibility to create new products that can be used without an activation that has to be done 1 hour before the use. And then in the next winter, after the preliminary results, if these results are good, we can consider also the eventual application of the treatment for adults. So I think that this is an important project, and I really thank Debra for the support, and I hope that from the results that this study will have, we can really improve the treatment of an important problem for EB patients. So finally, I would like to thank, of course, our patients and families that participate in the EB Center in Milan, Debra Italy, and also Debra Sud Tirol, but however Debra Italy for the support to this project, the pediatricians, dermatologists, and the staff of our blood bank, the geneticists, and also our nursing staff that strongly work together with the families in this kind of activities. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Rafael has one question. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, do you mind if I translate, because the other people cannot understand, because if the translator don't have someone speaking on the microphone, they don't translate. So she's asking if the biopsy is made at the beginning and then after 3 months of the treatment.
Yes, we have considered whether biopsy has to be done or not, but at the end we think that from a scientific point of view the availability of the biopsy is extremely important in terms of information on inflammation, and I think that also the data that has been presented yesterday are extremely important at this regard, because what we've seen, even with our standard swabs, is that in the skin of the patients with EB, the problem is inflammation more than infection. Of course, we have infection, but the infection are not due to very resistant pathogens. Yes, are due to Staph aureus, to Streptopyogenes, but they seem very easy to be treated, whereas the inflammation seems an important problem that has to be controlled. So for this reason, I think that in this kind of project, the availability of the biopsy before, I mean the day of the treatment, but before the beginning of the treatment and at the end of the treatment, can add important information. On the other hand, the point is the neoplastic transformation, and so the availability even on data regarding the inflammatory reaction of the skin is extremely important. We have planned the 2 years follow-up, but it is even possible that in 2 years, I hope we did not see cancer, but if the response is different in terms of inflammatory markers, this is an important information that should be considered.
There.
About we are using the blood for Blood cord tissue is one of the tissue of the body that have high amount of mesenchymal stem cells that produce all these factors. So, and mesenchymal stem cells is proved that heal EB wounds. So the question is, in your platelets derivated growth factor from blood cord, are you also measuring cells? Because if you are considering to use cells in your product, maybe you can increase your probability to heal the wounds and do it more faster.
In the preparation that I show in my slides, it is represented the fact that the stem cells are not included in the product. So we have the factors, but without the cells. So for this reason, we think that the production of autoantibodies cannot be induced because the stem cells are not included in the product. In the preparation, they are out of the product at the end.
I think there was another question there. Yeah.
Thank you. Congratulations for an excellent idea. I hope it really works well. I wonder if there is any literature on Regranex, which is the platelet-derived growth factor commercially available already on wounds of EB.
I did not find this kind of literature, honestly. I do not know whether there are some preliminary data, but I did not find published articles on this kind of product.
Se ho tempo, posso fare una domanda?
Sì.
Okay. Buongiorno, mi chiamo Carlo Saranzo, mi occupo di wound healing e non ho nessuna esperienza di EB, quindi mi scuso per l'ignoranza. Però volevo chiederle, è un'ottima idea quella del gel piestrinico da card blood, però mi sembra un po' troppo limitante come quantità di materiale. È possibile farlo dal sangue autologo come si fa in molte altre tipologie di ulcere come quelle che lei ha citato? Domanda numero 1. E un commento sul backup prelmino, Regranex, non è più utilizzato nemmeno nelle ulcere del piede diabetico perché si è dimostrato non efficiente, quindi non credo sia più molto efficace anche nelle lesioni da EB.
We think to use the cord blood derived gel because of its safety characteristics and also because of the fact that it is extremely rich in growth factors. So for this reason, with our blood bank that has prepared even the piestrinic gel that are derived from the standard donors, we have decided to move in this direction. Of course, it has to be prepared with a process that is more complicated than that used for the autologous piestrinic gel. And this is perfectly true that we have to use it in small lesions, so below 5 centimeters. However, I think that we have to understand whether this kind of product works, first of all. And we think that this is, of course, the product with the better characteristics than we could have in comparison with the other products. Of course, we know that the EB patients have some characteristics in their autoantibody reactions, and also regarding the question of one of our colleagues, it is true that we have even to look at the results in terms of production of autoantibodies or something similar. So for this reason, we started from something that should be used in small ulcers, but that can be extremely active. in the case of good results, we can also consider different kind of approach because, of course, the final goal is the preparation, for example, of bands or other kind of dressing that include this gel, but that can be used not with a weekly activation, but in another way, so that all the patients can use these products at home without coming to the center and without all this kind of complex follow-up.
Hello. Do you think in any protocol to prepare the wound before apply the gel? Or just cleaning with normal saline?
We usually our patients follow a protocol for the standard medication of the wounds. So usually we have a protocol that is shared between the families and their home assistants, our nurses, and our dermatologists. So we have standard procedures for this kind of approach. Of course, the definition of unsuccessful treatment is something, I mean, very general, but I think that it is very important for this reason to compare in the same patient one leg with the other leg, one arm with the other arm, and also the trunk, different position in the trunk, because in this way, we can also look at differences inside the patient. That is, I think, the most important point in order to demonstrate significant differences. And also for this reason, our study sample has been estimated in 10 patients and not more, because we think that with these numbers we can really identify important results as those identified, for example, in the elderlies.
Lei ha detto che finora ha presentato il protocollo solo a 2 famiglie e 10 sono quelle che lei intende arruolare. Vuole estendere la ricerca anche a famiglie non solo del territorio lombardo, del territorio del nord Italia, anche a livello europeo, se vuole arruolare anche delle persone che non sono italiane?
But of course, if there is this possibility, this should be great. It is very important, I mean, the presence of a blood bank in an hospital that follow these patients. This is an important issue. At the moment, in the discussion with our blood bank, it was suggested to have patients that arrive in our center because they are strictly involved in the activation of these platelets, and they will come to our center for the administration of this kind of gel. So for this reason, I think that I mean some cities like Munich or other cities in Germany or in Switzerland or in other countries close to Italy could participate in this kind of project. But I think that in this preliminary phase, considering the number of patients, probably other cities like London, yes, but that requires at the end a flight for coming in Italy, have some difficulties in performing the trial. I think that this is we can also discuss this with our blood bank because they are participating in a multinational projects for this kind of human cord blood derived platelets concentrates, and so it is possible, for example, that in Barcelona there is a center with similar characteristics. But I think that for this project we are at the moment looking at 10 patients that can reach Milano at least every 10 days, we can say, for 3 months.
Okay, I think we have time to thank you, Professor Esposito, because yes, we are very late.
I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Dr. Marcia Sellos-Mura. I hope I've pronounced it right. She's from the US. She's from Shire, and she will give us an update on recombinant collagen 7.
Cari famiglie, sono onorata di essere qui e di darvi un breve aggiornamento sul lavoro che Shire ha intrapreso per sviluppare una terapia per i pazienti. Vi ringrazio molto per avermi invitata. And that's all the Italian I can say.
But very good, congratulations. And you are very, very welcome.
All right. So, good morning. My name is Marcia Celis-Mora, and I am the program team leader for the dystrophic EB program at Shire. I would like to thank Debra International and Debra Italia for the opportunity to speak here. I'm honored to have been invited. I would like to say a little bit about me so you know my background. I'm a biochemist, and I have been with Shire for over 19 years. In that time, I have personally worked on drug development for just about all of our programs in rare diseases. And I have seen the difference that our therapies can make to patients around the world. So Shire is a global company with offices in 29 countries, serving more than 50 countries overall. This global reach is especially important in the rare diseases, as we need to treat patients in all corners of the world. We are large enough to have all the resources and talent necessary to successfully develop a therapy, but not so large that we lose sight of our patients. I have listed here the approved drugs that we have for rare diseases. There are many others under development. As you can see, we have developed many therapies for diseases as rare as DEB. Shire has been working on rare diseases for the last 2.5 decades. We have always put patients at the center of everything we do. Working on rare diseases, we get to know our patients and the patient organizations very well and work closely with them. And some of our patients are actually pictured in this slide. As you may know, Lotus Tissue Repair was founded in 2010 to develop recombinant collagen 7 therapy for DEB. In 3 short years, they were able to put together a compelling plan about how to treat DEB. Shire bought Lotus in February, and since then we have been working extremely hard to bring this therapy to patients like you. But it is a process that will take some time and must be done correctly to ensure the safety of the patients and to ensure that everything is done correctly the first time. So that studies do not need to be repeated before we get approval, we want to do it right the first time. I'd like to spend a few moments letting you know where we're headed and what we have done. Shire is a publicly traded company and therefore must follow certain rules. Unfortunately, we can't give special information to some groups, even if they are patients. But we can make sure, and we will make sure, that patient organizations are the first to know when we reach milestones, even if we can't tell you about every single step along the way. So even though I can't tell you the exact dates that you might like to hear, I can, however, share with you some of the exciting data that drew Shire to this disease and a brief overview of how protein drugs are developed and some examples from our program. It's a very complex process, but I find it helpful to have a roadmap, and that's what I've tried to do. And I think it helps to understand what we have to do and also the amount of time it might take. We are working extremely hard and as fast as we can. So the fundamental question is, how do we get DEB skin to be like healthy skin? And on the left, you see a picture of healthy mouse skin. And on the right, DEB mouse skin seen under the microscope, where you can clearly see the blister. And so as you look to see in this next slide, when Drs. Chen and Woodley gave collagen 7 intravenously to mice with DB, and then looked at a mouse skin under a microscope, they found that collagen 7 not only went to the right place, but it also reversed the separation of the mouse skin layers. So on the top panel, the color green is a collagen 7 between the layers of mouse skin. On the left, perhaps you can see in very dark, the leftmost panel does not have recombinant 7 added, collagen 7, and there's a blister. As you move to the right, to your right, you can see more and more collagen 7 added, and the blister is not there. And the bottom panel is another way of looking at mouse skin in purple. And on the left again, no collagen 7. You can clearly see the blisters with the arrows. As you move to the right, more and more collagen 7 added, and the blisters are not there. These results were very promising and are being repeated so we can understand them better and be very confident in these results. However, we all know that only giving it to patients will really prove that this can work. So what are we doing now, and what are we doing next? Seeing promising results in mice is the first step in developing a therapy for patients. What we see in animals is not always seen in patients, but it's very encouraging. We'll need more research in animals, and we'll need clinical trials in patients to really know, and very importantly, to convince the regulatory agencies to approve a therapy. So what comes next, and what type of work have we been doing? So making new drugs is like a puzzle with many interconnected activities. Manufacturing, making the drug itself, safety, efficacy, and all the activities that take place after the drug is approved are all connected. So what do I mean by that? And I have dissected the process. So to actually manufacture a protein for human use is a very complicated process, but Shire has been doing this for the last 20 years, and we do have a lot of experience. The drug needs to be made in very large amounts, but also to be shown to be very pure. The way that the drug is made has to be consistent and controlled so that you know that every batch will behave in the same way. Formulation is also very important to make sure the drug is stable and safe. Collagen 7 is the largest protein ever attempted to be made as a drug, and it's also a very complex protein. However, Shire, as I said, has been making protein drugs for over 20 years, and we have the expertise necessary for this task. The next three areas in drug development are safety, efficacy, and other activities. So first you must know that the drug is safe. You start in preclinical studies in animals before ever attempting to give it to humans. The demonstration of safety never stops even after the drug is approved. So we heard yesterday a wonderful talk about antibodies. We are always looking at antibodies are something that we routinely look for in every program that we do, among many other things. So we're very aware of what it takes, and very open to new ideas as well. So the next step is showing the drug is efficacious. Again, you start in preclinical studies before you go into clinical trials. And in the clinical trials, start small and get larger. And after the therapy is approved, we continue to monitor. And then in rare diseases, we often monitor the patients for life. In the post-approval period, that's when you, even though you may have a drug, it doesn't mean that it's available in every country. So there's a lot of hard work that goes into that as well. And the influence of healthcare outcomes is something we continue to look at. The next slide I'm going to show is very complicated, but I'll dissect it for you, so bear with me. This is the example of the drug development pathway in general. So it's a very complex process, and I haven't even shown everything yet to you. And it's in chronological order. The boxes represent the various stages of development from the scientific discovery in the lab on the left to finally having drug available for patients on the right. It's generally correct. This is an example. And by the way, the boxes that are on top of each other, they are done at the same time, more or less. Depending on the program, there may be variations, and I'll try to highlight some of them. So we start with a disease mechanism of action, and on the left, for DB, this means that collagen 7, that we know that collagen 7 is missing, protein is missing, or defective in patients. The next step is to show in cells and animals that we can fix the defect. So for DB, it means that adding collagen 7 allows the skin layers to pull together. So this is where Lotus was, and that's where, and we have taken the baton as, to use that analogy, and we have run with it. So, so the next step shown here is all the animal studies in animals, and I'm not going to go in detail. You can read it on your own pace later on. So at the end of having all the manufacturing in place and having all the animal studies in place and feeling that, knowing that we have done everything that we can do to make sure it's safe, that's when we go to the regulatory agencies and ask for permission to go into humans. So then those would be all the other steps, and I'll go in more detail in the next slide because it really is too complicated for just one slide. So in the middle of the slide is when the regulatory agencies will give a permission to go into humans. In the next slide, I've expanded on that. So one thing that we are allowed to do before we have this permission is to do a phase 0. And in rare diseases, we do, just about always, we do a phase 0. It's a natural history study, and it's where we look in a very detailed way, but also in a very quantitative way for what the disease progression looks like. So we can then measure and prove to the regulatory agencies that what we have is actually making a difference. So we need to measure. You need to have so we're working on that already. We're developing technology, and some of you may have heard about that. And we're obviously, even though we haven't received the approval yet from the regulatory agencies, all that work goes on even before, in expectation. So next is phase 1, and that's where safety primarily and a few other things are looked at. Sometimes it's done in in volunteers, and sometimes it's done in patients, and then followed by that is a phase 2, where you continue to do safety and efficacy, and you also look for doses, endpoints, etc. And sometimes phase 1 and 2 are combined, for example. And sometimes phase 2 is split into other phases. It all depends on the data. It's all data-driven. Then there's a phase 3. It's larger. You confirm efficacy. You keep looking at safety always. You expand, and you look for the clinical and meaningfulness. And finally, when you have all that information, that's when you go again, to the regulatory agencies. You ask for marketing authorization, and that's when the drug becomes available. Now, it doesn't stop there. We go on to phase 4 for all our products. There's always post-marketing commitments, and there's always safety, especially in rare diseases. The numbers of patients are small, so in order to get the to get the information, you just we follow our patients for life, pretty much, and look at health outcomes. And at the bottom of the slide, I've shown the website where European trials are listed. And when we're ready to enroll patients, we will let the Debras know, and they will let you know to look at this website and make your decision. So finally, I'd like to end with saying something I've said before, but I think it bears repeating. Shire has a strong commitment not only to patients, but also to patient organizations. You are the experts in EB, and we want to and need to learn from you. And finally, I hope you can, yes, you can read this. In closing, I'd like you to look at the bottom of the slide. And this is a statement that we have on all our slides, on our website, on our walls, on our business cards. And we really mean it to be as brave as the people we help. You know how you're brave, and the way we are brave is by trying to use new technology, try to do things that have never been done before, doing whatever it takes to help and cure these rare diseases. And finally, thank you very much to the families, to Debra Italia, to Debra International. Grazie mille.
Thank you very much for this very inspiring talk. From the standpoint of Debra International, I can assure you that we are very keen on working together with you.
Looking forward to it.
Any questions?
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. My question is related to the regimen that you think to use, so the schedule that you think to use in EB patients, if you have a standard dosage or which kind of treatment do you consider? And the other question is whether you think to do the study even outside the United States.
Oh,
so
yes.
even in Europe, I think, because of course
Yes.
our centers are really interested in this kind of project.
So I think the first question you're asking is if it's an intravenous. Yes, that's what we're looking at. That's what we're planning on doing. As far as dosing, we're gathering the information now to find out what the dose will be. And so you'll have to wait for that, for us to know exactly. And yes, we are a global company. For rare diseases, we always go. We don't, well, I can't say always, but yes, we are planning on going Europe and US and other places as well. So no doubt about it.
Hiya. I just wanted to ask the timescale between the first slide where the blisters were present and to the last slide where they disappeared. I just want to know what the timescale
The
between
time scale, that's what I alluded to, that there are industry numbers and people talk about how long it takes. The reality is that we're going as fast as we can. We're doing many things at the same time. We have timelines, an ideal timeline, and we have probably 6 other timelines as if things don't go perfectly well. And again, like I mentioned, this is a very large protein. Making large quantities and making it well is something when we need to get it right now. Because one of the issues is that once you start treating patients, you can't change the way you make the protein. You have to have it nailed down, set. So you have to do it right the first time. And again, I can't tell you exactly when, but I can assure you there's an army of us working on this, so we're going as fast as we can. And yes? Oh.
Salve, grazie per la presentazione. Lei ha ringraziato Debra Italia e Debra International, noi ringraziamo lei di essere qui.
I'm sorry, I don't have my...
Yes, you thanked Debra International, but we, as Debra International,
Oh, grazie.
Stavo per fare la stessa domanda. Stavo per fare la stessa domanda del partecipante precedente riguardo ai tempi. Visto che è stata già fatta e che lei, diciamo, purtroppo non ha potuto dare una risposta precisa, le chiederò un'altra cosa. Un paziente che oggi ha un'età più avanzata, 20 anni, 25 anni, può sperare anche lui che sia utilizzata questo farmaco, che sia utile per lui questo farmaco? Questo trattamento?
So, in short, I believe yes. But I can't make promises, and I'm not here to make promise about timeline. I don't want to have false hope for anybody, but yes, we are working very hard for this, yes. We're not looking for a long...
Chiedo scusa. Quando sarà possibile avere un aggiornamento sui tempi di questo progetto? Quando sarà possibile avere un aggiornamento sui tempi di questo progetto?
So I was actually just talking to John Dart this morning, over breakfast, and we'd like to be part of and work with Debra International and other Debras to provide what we can periodically. He mentioned there's a quarterly newsletter that perhaps we could give you the updates we can give you in that, so that you know that some of the progress being made. So, and again, the Centers of Excellence we're already engaging with them all. Not all of them, I'm sorry. With a few, we're starting to engage. And we've been engaging with Debra, and we'll continue to do that.
Just a question I didn't get. Do you have the orphan designation, the European one?
We're working on that.
Okay. Yeah. And you have a proof of concept in animal studies, but you didn't apply the drug to the human now.
We're not allowed to go into humans until we get
because you don't have the outcome.
Approval.
That's the
So once we have that package, that will be actually public knowledge, and you will know, but we'll let the Debras know within minutes.
You don't have the orphan designation in US also, because it's different criteria, so.
We're working on all that.
Okay, so that's it. Thank you.
Your story looks very promising, and yeah, maybe I'm a bit impatient, but my son has got junctional EB, and I was wondering if this would be a promising, not this, but if there are prospects for the future to develop also a drug for other kinds of EB.
I know there's a lot of research being done. I can't really comment on, the program we're working on is for DEB, and, but again, the more you understand about the disease, all this research is extremely important in order to develop a therapy. If it weren't for the research that everybody here is doing and for that is being sponsored, there wouldn't be therapy like this. And we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't have. Yeah.
Hi. I'm not sure there's some confusion with regards to the answer of a question that was asked just a while ago, with regards to the slides from the mouse skin, where it had the blister, to the collagen 7 in that long green line. I think the question that was being asked to you was how long did it take from having EB to that green line of good collagen 7 and no blisters anymore, taking laboratory conditions?
If I understood, how long does it take for the protein to get to the right place?
Yeah, kick in and be that good line of collagen 7 from being a blister area.
Hours, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, fast.
Smashing. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi, Marcia.
Hi, John.
Really just a comment, because, I mean, clearly, as you'll appreciate, people are very, very keen to know as much as they can. I just wanted to just make a comment that I think we're all aware that there are constraints on compliance and commercial constraints about what you can say to us now. If it's any consolation, I think I must have been having daily contact over the last few weeks with Shire or Shire's agents, and I suspect Brett is in the same position. So there is a lot of communication, and I'm absolutely convinced that we can believe Marcia when she says that when there's information that they are able to release, it will come to us first, and we will make sure everyone knows.
Indeed. Thank you. And
Il risultato positivo della sperimentazione animale è già un grande successo.
Ok.
Il risultato positivo della sperimentazione animale è già un grande successo. Volevo sapere che cosa impedisce ad andare verso il trial clinico, e noi siamo abituati a pensare che voi americani avete dei tempi celeri di ricerca. Come mai siete fermati a questo step e non riuscite? Sono autorizzazioni, comitati etici? Che cosa vi impedisce di andare avanti?
So that's a very good answer. We haven't stopped. We're running. And so we must put together this very large dossier of information for the regulatory agencies. We're gathering all that. If it were paper, it would be very large. And we are in communication with the regulatory agencies, as every company who does this would be. And yes, and we're getting all that information, and then they'll give us permission, hopefully, and then we'll start. Now, the other way of looking at it is that no one wants to harm any patients. So we need to make sure that we do all the right things. And if we show that, for example, that if we want to treat a patient for 3 months, we have to at least have been able to treat that an animal for 3 months before. So if you treat an animal for 2 months, you can't treat a patient for 3 months. You have to start. So things do take time, because we need to compile, gather all that information. So we feel that we're not going to do any harm to anyone. That's the last thing we'd ever want. So it's not going slowly, it's not stopping. It's not stopping at all. We are running, but we do need, it takes time to gather all the correct information to make sure that that we get approval, because even if we wanted to, they wouldn't let us. But also, so we feel confident. And we've been doing this, as you saw, for many, many years. So we have a huge team of people working on this. So I don't need to stop doing what I'm doing and do something else. There's another team that's working on that. So you can be assured that we are running.
Marcia, hi.
Hi.
A comment, and then just see if my numbers are right on something along these lines.
Okay.
One, yes, there are a tremendous number of people over at Shire working on this. I think I've spoken with 30. At least at this point throughout, before you purchased and after.
And there's many more than you haven't.
I know. I hear about 100.
I don't even know, actually.
Yeah. But as other therapies, protein replacement therapies have been created for new novel disease states, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It's my understanding that the effectiveness of the treatments have been very efficacious.
Yes.
You know, so, I mean, is there sort of a percentage-wise, and I know that does not necessarily mean that this one will work well,
okay.
But given past history of other development protein replacement therapies,
right.
What's
So,
sort of the percentage? Because that would probably have had to gone into the theory of purchasing.
yes, and so that's a very good point. In general, protein therapeutics are probably the most effective. I mean, the kind of therapy that is has the highest probability of success in general. Why? Because if you have one gene, one defect, one gene with a defect, and you know what the gene is, and you can make the protein, there's still a lot to know, but it's much better than searching for pharmaceuticals, testing literally a million and hoping that one does something but not understanding the mechanism. So understanding the mechanism, the research that goes in, that takes place, makes it that the probability of success is much higher with protein. Does it mean that it's always? No, but it's high.
I've heard around 85 to 92% of disease states.
Depends what phases, if it's cumulative, and also depends if you do it right. Natural history study and also enrollment. We've heard many people speaking here and at EB Clinet that enrollment is one of the biggest hurdles for any development, and it's true. So dedication from us, from everybody, and doing it right. And I think we know what to do, but we need help, and we need your expertise as well.
We are taking the last question. Sorry, everybody, we are very late.
Scusi? Sì, abbiamo visto nelle diapositive, il collagene settimo posizionarsi dove deve andare. Questo posizionamento è definitivo oppure bisogna ripeterlo?
We've seen it in mice. Mice are not men. Does it give us a lot of confidence? Yes. Are we doing other things? Yes, we are doing many other things. So it's these results are extremely encouraging. But again, did I answer your question?
No, il collagene settimo
sì.
Va nel posto dove deve andare e tiene unita la pelle.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, but it will need to be repeated. How often, how frequently, is still something we're trying to determine. But and we have quite a bit of data already. So.
Thank you very much. There will be a break now. Please make sure that you are back in the auditorium at 12 o'clock sharp. We will continue with the talk of Evanina Marsilia Markov. We will skip the talk of John Dart, and we will continue with Dr. Paula Gubo. slightly, but I think it's important to have to convince all the customers. Here is one big. It's only a little difference. The funny thing is that from our there's different proposals for your group. And this was one of the proposals. It's also really on the short list. Then we said we want to do this one. So it's funny that we are using as proposals on the short list. And I always ask myself, where do you get it? Because we always send only this out.
Volevate venire là per il passeggino alla stazione?
Gracias. I have one. You gave me one. No. I have to make sure for next Saturday this week we don't have so many presentations and then more space otherwise it doesn't make any sense to we're actually sort of steps going on last one is interesting. Everybody's waiting for it. So, it's not possible. She expects everything. This finishes in one, but everybody sticks to his time. And at 2 we started to pull it. Things are very complicated. Was what the Austrian Charter said 20 years ago. On the other hand, we work with a number of only because things are complicated. We say, well, sometimes we get an email from someone who says, hello, my name is
live in farm, so we can't do anything until we are certain. So anyway, I'll share that. I was looking at that. It's great what it does in the adult dynamics, because in DEB in particular, the youngest reported patient with SCC is 12. The regulator would say, how do you know you're not going to close the wound and kill them sooner? Yeah, and right, but they would make us do actually a fairly detailed animal trial to show that it didn't
So please, everybody, if everybody wants to take the seat, please. We need to start again. So please. So I want to introduce the next speaker. As Rainer is speaking with someone. Rainer, do you prefer to introduce Ivanina? Okay, so.
Only her. So please take a seat. Is it working? I'd like to announce the next speaker, Dr. Evanina Morcillo-Makov from Debra, Spain. She will give a talk on priority setting and partnerships in rare diseases. Please.
Ah. It's a red button, I should have guessed. A red light district. My name is Evanina, I work for Debra, Spain, and we did the study that I will be telling you about now with a few dermatologists and healthcare professionals and people with EB. Two of the authors are also here. They're the Debra, Spain nurses. I think they're not in the room right now. But anyway, it's called Where Should Research Be Directed To? An Example of Priority Setting. Now, as we all know, DB is a rare disease, and the research budget is limited, as we've been able to see throughout these days. As a rare disease, there are a number of unanswered questions that people with EB have, people that healthcare professionals have, and have never been answered by research to date. There was a review in 2011 of therapies evaluating the interventions for decreasing the number of skin lesions, and this showed only 7 clinical trials. None of them showed a significant effect. Therefore, deciding what questions haven't been answered by research and being able to prioritize those questions is essential. In order to introduce the priority setting partnerships concept, I'd like to explain that we will, from now on, take unanswered questions, we will understand them as uncertainties, okay? Background. As you all know, research agendas usually led by academia, pharmaceutical companies, researchers, basic researchers. However, do people with EB and healthcare professionals agree on what is being researched nowadays? That's what we were trying to research. The James Lind Alliance, which is funded by the UK National Institute of Health, has developed a method to be able to identify those unanswered questions in research and to prioritize them, to be able to explain to researchers, this is what people with EB and healthcare professionals would like to see researched. Could you please go ahead and do it? That's the James Lind Alliance. This method has not been applied to many rare diseases at all, and it's very seldomly been used in dermatology. Now, the partnership priority setting is therefore a partnership between people with EB, healthcare professionals, carers, and they decide what questions haven't been answered and which of those questions are priorities for them. And that is what's called priority setting partnerships. Now, how do priority setting partnerships work? This was a totally new study for us in Debra, Spain as well. It was really exciting. I'll talk you through it, but it was a really nice way of involving everyone, people with EB, carers, healthcare professionals. It was exciting, and the outcome was exciting as well. So at stage 1 of the study, you choose the stakeholders. So that's people with EB, carers, carers of children. For that, they used Debra Spain. We had the database of people with EB and their carers. Physicians were involved, so healthcare professionals, people who work straight with people with EB, and then other professionals involved in the treatment and care of EB. So that took from November to December just to decide who the questionnaire was going to be sent out to. Stage 2 was to identify the uncertainties. How do we do this? We do it by just sending out one simple question to everyone, to the healthcare professionals, to the people with EB and carers. We just send out, what questions about DEB have not been answered? What questions would you like to see answered? That took from December to February. We used SurveyMonkey, which is a system that you can send mails for free. We sent out 154 surveys. Those included 29 healthcare professionals, 125 people with EB and carers, and we got 58 replies, which included 323 uncertainties. So only by having 58 people replying, amongst those 58 people, they had 323 things they wanted to see answered by research. Stage 3 is the collation, so it's the review of all those questions, all those uncertainties. Plus, we added another 50 uncertainties that we found on the web from different Debras, the forums, like it says here, guidelines, NHS evidence. And then we removed all the duplicates, removed the ones that weren't associated to treatment, and we were left with 77 final treatment uncertainties, and that took from February to May. And the final stage, the before final exciting stage, was the ranking exercise. So once you have those 77 final uncertainties, we sent them out again to all the people who participated. And then they were responsible for prioritizing and saying, out of those 77, could you please tell us the 24 that you find most important? Now, this was the last stage. So we got together, the group, the committee got together with a balanced number of healthcare professionals, people with EB and carers at one of the national dermatology offices. As you can see, this is a team. We have, mums of people with EB, healthcare professionals. It was a half-day workshop. We used the nominal group technique, so we were divided into different groups to try and prioritize which of those 24 uncertainties were the top 10 priorities. And I have to say, it was a really exciting day. It was fun. It was fun to feel that we were deciding something important, to feel that we were finally having a word as to what we would like to see answered by research. The results. These are the 10 uncertainties that were prioritized as the 10 main questions that people with EB, carers, and healthcare professionals want to see answered. So I'll just read through them. Which wound care method obtains better outcomes, improved healing, decreased pain, improved quality of life, decreases smell, prevents infection? Interventions may include types of dressing, so I won't read through those, topical antibacterial treatment, different types of baths. So this was like the top priority. This is what people with EB, carers, and healthcare professionals wanted answered through the research. Second priority was, what is the best treatment to control itch in DEB? Sedating antihistamines, non-sedating antihistamine, topical menthol, as you can see. Priority 3 was, what is the best pain control strategy? So from analgesics, sedative drugs, addition of sodium chloride into the water to decrease the pain during the wound care and the bath in DEB patients. Priority 4 was, how does management in reference centres, in EB reference centres, help people with EB in terms of quality of life, quality of care, avoiding complications and disability, cost effectiveness? This, I have to say that it's something that's probably a priority that did come up in Spain because we don't have any national reference centres for EB, and it's something that people with EB really feel it would make a difference to their day-to-day. How effective is an early tumour diagnosis protocol in patients with EB to decrease mortality, amputations, and disability? The 6th priority, sorry, I've got a cold and I've got enough air. Okay. I'll make a break, actually. Is Stella from Debra, Argentina here? I can't believe it. Is she here? Stella, happy birthday. Thank you, that was a really good excuse. What are the long-term results of syndactyly surgery? Which is the best technique? How often should it be performed? As we see year by year, we go to the international meetings. Different doctors have different techniques. This is one of the priorities to be answered by research. 7 is, which is the most effective method in avoiding or delaying syndactyly? Again, same question. Different techniques apart from surgery. The 8th priority was, what is the role that what role does tissue engineering having in treating wounds in patients with DB? 9 was, what role might stem cell therapy and bone marrow transplantation play in treating DB? We have a few people here who might be able to help us with the answer. And the 10th priority was, what role might growth hormone play in decreasing growth and puberty delay in DB patients? So these were the 10 out of the 323 uncertainties that we started off with, that we then reduced to 77, that we then sent the survey out again. These were the 10 priorities, the 10 things that people with EB, carers and healthcare professionals consider the most important. And we continued the study. So what we learned from it is that obviously priority setting partnerships, having partnerships between people with EB, carers and healthcare professionals, whereby they can decide amongst themselves what are the priorities for research, is very important, and people do have a lot of questions that haven't been answered. We did a later search, which was really interesting, and I've put the whole sort of bibliography of it, and it was conducted, well, up until April 2013, so very recent. We used the International Clinical Trials Registry platform and the Clinical Trials Government platform. It's a website where all the clinical trials are registered. And we assessed how many of the current registered clinical trials for DB actually matched the 10 unanswered questions. And you will find that out of the 25 studies, only 4 of the unanswered questions, only 4 of the uncertainties were being covered by current clinical trials. I'll give you, I'm not sure if you can read that. Can you read that? That's basically the result. So if you can see the different priorities there, the different uncertainties, and you can see what uncertainties are sort of being answered by research and which ones are totally void of research. So 4 of them. If anyone needs this later on, please let me know. Conclusions. There's obviously a mismatch between what people with EB want to see answered and what research is doing right now. And that, in a way, should encourage us to funding the research that people want to see, the questions that people want to see answered. As we said at the beginning, you know, when research, especially in EB and rare diseases, the budget is limited. We hope to have found a method that will help fund research into the correct things and into the things that are important to people with EB. Now, I would like to talk you through the limitations of the study. Obviously, the uncertainties are sometimes broad and not specific questions, but this could be boiled down to more specific questions for research purposes. Not all people with EB and clinicians might agree on these 10 priorities that came out. This is a study that was done on a national level in Spain, and hopefully maybe someday we can do it on an international level. And as I said, maybe the question about reference centers is specific to Spain. And then some research might be ongoing and we don't know about it, so it wasn't registered here. And for more information, this is the article in the Orphanet website. So if any of you have any questions, I want to thank everyone that participated, especially Debra Spain nurses who really involved the people with EB and the healthcare professionals. And like I said, it was a really exciting process, lovely for us to all work together and agree on 10 points that are really important for people with EB and healthcare professionals as well. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Evanina. Any questions?
Yes, there's one question there.
Here. Where's the...
Thank you, Evanina. I have just one comment and not a question. It's really a fantastic idea, what you did. And I hope it could be useful to be done in all countries. Because I think that we should work upon the needs of the patients. And if we don't, sometimes working, we don't really realize what is the real need of each patient. And we have our protocol, our programs, and we go on. So it's a big mistake, frequently done by doctors, but not because they don't want to do better, because maybe they are using this protocol. So I think that we already read your paper, and it is really touching. And it's very useful to promote us to work in a good way, to answer better to the needs of patients, even if, unfortunately, to some questions until now we couldn't answer, but it could be an idea to work in that way. Thank you, really.
Okay, thank you. Easy. Easy.
Thought it was a very interesting exercise. And I'm going to try to couch it as a question more than as a comment. Because it seems a lot of the questions that came up were in direct result of research that was already happening. So I was wondering if you would then factor those out as being priorities, because those aren't, I mean, trying to understand the effectiveness, the efficacy of the bone marrow transplant or stem cell transplants, those are not novel. Whereas the looking at how to delay pseudosyndactyly is. So when you would go this route again, would you factor those separately? Because it's confusing. Of course, there's not going to be research being addressed of one of those questions because it's already ongoing. Right, so that's why I'm trying to figure out how to couch it as a question.
Yeah, I mean, this is more a way of recommending to the funding agencies what they should be researching. I mean, it's...
But I wouldn't refund how the bone marrow transplant is doing.
Right, I think that's what was shown by the clinical trials, that there are things, there are priorities that are being researched, but there are certain priorities such as itch, and going back to, it's not there anymore, going back to the study, the great thing about this is that things that healthcare professionals didn't think were that important, when they went through this exercise, they realized actually it was also important for them. Things like itch, you know, it's something that people with EB constantly complain about, you know, something that they see in their, you know, in their daily work, that they hadn't really realized was such a priority for research, but actually it is, because they do want to be able to give an answer and a solution to people with EB. So going back to the clinical studies, some of them are being covered by research already, but those are not. Those are the ones that should be developed. Have I answered your question? Was your question harder than I thought it was? Okay, sorry.
Thanks a lot, Evanina. That was very good. I really appreciated that, and it sort of helps me in terms of, you know, Debra Canada and some of the things that we're asking questions about what we do, about what our board does and everything. And I think this was really a wonderful example of what can be done. So thank you. I wanted to ask you if asking all these questions and revealing all these areas of uncertainty, if it has changed how your thinking is in terms of how Debra Spain will go forward in dealing with your patients.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now Debra Spain is not in a position yet to fund research, but definitely if we did, this is a great guideline, isn't it? At the day-to-day of people with EB seems to be, from the priorities that we've seen there, more important than maybe possible cure. But the thing is, you know, funding is there. Debra International, all Debras, we, you know, make a great effort to fund research, and this is a recommendation of what people want to be seen. And there's a little bit of everything, isn't there? There are therapies, there are day-to-day issues, so maybe there's a way of covering it all.
Okay. Can I go? Thank you.
Okay.
So let's move on to the next speaker. Dr. Gabriele Pola-Gobo, she's from the EB House in Salzburg, and she will give us an update on the EB Clinic network.
How does it work?
Buongiorno a tutti voi. Welcome. Vi ringrazio per l'invito. Io ho imparato un po'. So now I better talk in English. I will tell you our new project, which is quite new since 2 years, about the EB Clinet project. As you see, EB Clinet has a claim that is called Linking Clinical Expertise in EB. And this is what we actually try to do. We try to link all the clinical experts all over the world. So for those who don't know us very well, I just go back a little and tell you the history about Debra and the EB House. Debra, Austria was founded in 1995 by parents of EB children and doctors. Debra raised a lot of money. Rainer Riedel one day came up with the idea to build the EB House. And now Debra is financing the stuff, the material and everything what we have to have in the EB House. So just to give you an impression what it is. It was opened in 2005 and it's a joint venture of Debra Austria and the General Hospital in Salzburg. So, oops, sorry. So this is the big department of dermatology in Salzburg. It's the biggest in Austria. And here we built the EB House. This belongs also to the hospital. So this is the EB House. It's a place with 480 square meters. And it is just a part of the Department of Dermatology. But what we do is that all the work we do is proceeded via the hospital, but everything is refunded to the hospital by Debra Austria. So we have a privilege that means we have our own doctors. They do not have to take care for all other dermatological patients, but they are just there for the EB patients. We have 3 units at the EB House. This is a thing according to recommendations of the EU. If you have an outpatient unit, if you perform some research, and if you have an academy part, then you are, according to the EU, a center of expertise. And we have that all in the EB House. We have, in the meantime, a big team of doctors and nurses. We have 2 doctors, 2 nurses, a project manager at the EB House. And we are working together with all the doctors in the Department of Dermatology, but also with all the other doctors in the different departments of the General Hospital. So we provide a multidisciplinary care. We have the EB research unit. A lot of EB projects are done there, especially therapeutic, also cures for secondary complications. We try to find therapeutic applications for aggressive forms of EB cancer, mechanisms of delayed wound healing and pseudosyndactyly. These are all projects, but we also have a method for ex vivo genes or cell therapy. And this, if it is one day approved and works, will be, we can apply it to all recessive and dominant forms of EB. And the 3rd unit is the academy, and what we like to do there is to provide education and advanced training for doctors, for therapists, for nurses, for scientists. We organize workshop seminars and conferences. We present at national and international events. We publicate things, and we do all kinds of networking. So this is the communication part as well. And we recently founded EB Clinet. This was launched in 2011. we realized one day, as we do a register also for our EP patients, we realized that there are 20 people coming from 20 different countries to us, because in their countries there was no help, and so they're all looking for help at the EP house. And so this was the background for our idea of EB Clinic. We thought it should be organized on a professional basis, that clinicians are trained and can perform a treatment for their patients in their own country. Our experience was that the patients came. We always had to take care for all the beginning for the hotel for them, for the need of a translator and everything. And I mean, you can understand if somebody is talking to you medically, a doctor with a patient, they don't understand everything correctly, and then they cannot follow up. And so this was really the background for this. What we did first is to send out a questionnaire to all existing EB contacts, and we are working quite a long time, almost 20 years on the EB. So we had a lot of contacts, and I sent them out to all known contacts. And we created a website to communicate. So what we'd like to do is to build up a network of EB centers and EB experts in Europe and beyond. We would like to promote the exchange of knowledge and expertise regarding EB. We want to ensure professional treatment for EB patients. We want to create a basis for recruitment of patients for future clinical studies and or therapies. And we want to guarantee and simplify the cross-border healthcare. We started up in 2011. We had the first conference in 2012, and then we defined some work packages, because it's clear that we cannot do everything on our own. So the work packages were defined. We tried to find partner to guide them, and we defined 6 main projects. One is the EB register, which is guided by Peter van den Akke in Groningen. One is the professionals training and education. Main responsibility is with Professor Lena Bruckner-Tudemann in Freiburg. There is a project, Clinical Practice Guidelines, which is a cooperation with Debra International, mainly Francis Pallison and Avril and Gemma, I think the best EB doctors in the world try to coordinate this project. We also like to provide a directory of centers of expertise, a directory of laboratories and biobanks. And we, of course, want to expand the network all over the world. At the moment, we have 52 partners in 43 countries. There is not only one partner in every country. It's especially in Italy, there are more partners in one country, and this is why the difference comes. So it's already 12 countries outside Europe. So you see, we have US and lucky. Mexico, Israel, Iran, so a lot of other countries. To enter the network, it is necessary to fill in that questionnaire. And so I'm just telling you now a little bit also about the problems to create such a network. We had a first transmission of a general questionnaire, and as you see here, there is a sentence, the first to contact in every country. And there is a message, yearly update. So we collected our partners. There were 32 in 2011, 15 in 2012, only 5 up to now in 2013. It's just because we didn't have time to send it out to other countries. So I tried to make an update of that information. and there is not only who is the first to contact. In this questionnaire, there are a lot of questions, like are you running a register? Are you providing outpatient care? Are you providing an inpatient care? And a lot of other questions. So I sent out the 47 questionnaires again to the 47 partners. I sent out several reminders, but I just got back 17 from 47, which means it's just 36% reply. And we are just thinking about how to make it better. How can we achieve that people are answering our questionnaires? So this is just a short information about the outcome. So 46 of the 52 partners communicated to provide a multidisciplinary care. So all of them have a dermatologist, 41 of them have a pediatrician, where's the nurse? Only 35 have a specialized nurse. So this is what we can do by having a real good questionnaire. We can evaluate the things. We can see where there is something missing to provide that in the future. So this is the diagnosis. Almost half of the partners provide a diagnosis with the immunofluorescence antigen mapping or the mutation analysis. I don't think that all of these countries provided themselves, but maybe it was written in the questionnaire. The questions very general, so I'm sure that some of the countries are sending it out anyway. They provide it. This was also for us an information to make it more clear our own questionnaire. And the other thing is that we are just thinking about other methods that people fill in the things very correctly, and this could be an online version of a questionnaire where you cannot go on when you don't fill in all the different questions. And I will show you an example with the register. 38 of the 52 partners answered they have a register, and the patients treated or known in the center altogether were 7,284, meaning 46% had a dystrophic EP and 34 a simplex. So this is an estimation. I will show you why. When we this is another question. I don't think that I go to the details now because we're running out of time. So the questionnaire, the evaluation of that questionnaire was very challenging because some of the questions were not or only partially answered. We had an information about a total number of 7,900 patients altogether with all the partners in their registries. But they didn't answer the specific question which came after that. How many patients do you have with EP simplex? How many you have with junctional EP? How many with dystrophic? So I could just evaluate the 7,284 where I had the full answer in the questionnaire. So we are thinking about an online questionnaire that where every question has to be answered, and otherwise you can't go on. And if somebody has a very good idea with questionnaires, all your ideas are welcome. We were just talking about during the break that we are all sick of receiving questionnaires, because every day another question that comes in, and you really can't do it any longer, and especially when they are very long. But I think when I have a partner, he filled in the questionnaire, and there are not so many changes, because there are questions you provide a histopathology? Do you have an electron microscopy and things like that? So this usually doesn't change. So when I send a reminder, I just would encourage my partner to say, no change, and this is all he or she must write me in an email, or just change the first to contact, or just change the small part. So this could not be that much. This could not be too much asking them. So just a few impressions about our meetings, and we had a lovely discussion yesterday afternoon with all the many efforts done for EB patients in Gaza Strip and so on. I had Dr. Naim, where he's somewhere here. Oops. He was here also at my first EB Clinic conference in Salzburg. Oh, here he is. There were people from 33 countries, more than 100. We have already done a workshop on registries, and Lawrence Charnes is here. He also attended our workshop meeting. The one, Peter van den Akker from Groningen, has a lot of experience with a dystrophic EB register, and we asked him to guide this register project. And just to set up the priorities, we made this workshop in Vienna. Jonathan Bruno was here as well. And also people had a lot of experience with registries. This is Steve Lynn from the Treat NMD group, and they have got a lot of money from the EU, 10 million around, to set up a register for the neuromuscular diseases. And he was keen to inform us how they did it and how they set up this wonderful registry they had. So the first things are started already. Of course, not only Lena Bruckner-Dudemann will provide the EP community with trainings, we also do it on our own. I'd like to tell you the story about the hand surgery workshop. There was an Ukrainian patient supposed to be operated in Salzburg. He took with him 2 surgeons from the Ukraine. They all came together. I wrote out a clinic news. We have an email. We can send out whatever information you want to spread. We can send it out via EB Clinic News. We sent it out, and finally we had, in addition to the 2 doctors from the Ukraine, there came 2 people from Brazil, one from Bulgaria, and he's not here any longer. It was also Antonio Cutzugrea, who attended our workshop, and we make it this way that the people are prepared for the surgery. So we have a small workshop before, then they attend the surgery, and then they have another workshop for all the post-operative treatment. And this takes just 2 days actually to do it. This is not much, but I think it's the best way of learning the things, bedside teaching, as you say, and then they can go home and can do all the things on their own. And this is the goal of EB Clinic actually, that all the people can be treated in their own countries. I also went to Bosnia this year. I was invited. Debra Bosnia got a small grant from Debra International to perform a training. I went there. It was a wonderful experience because everything was very well organized. They have already an apartment for the EB patients, also with a sleeping room where they can stay for a longer time. They organized a symposium where 26 doctors attended. It were dermatologists, pediatricians. They were all interested. I could see that a big department of dermatology, where we also collected samples from patients, biopsy samples. I took them to Salzburg and made the diagnosis. And I had the opportunity to walk around to tell them everything, also our experience, how to build up the Debra in Austria. So this was a combined thing for the Debra and also for the diagnostic needs they have. So we have a cooperation now. They can send me the biopsies anytime, and I think it should be that way, that we should go out and there is also a message from the EU, the expertise has to travel, not the patient. We had this week, last week, no, it was already in this week, the second Clinet conference, and where again people from 30 countries coming to Salzburg. It was pouring rain, so they all sat in and had no need to do some sightseeing. It was, I think, quite good meeting as well. Yeah, and our perspectives are, the ongoing activities to manage all the work, to find the new partners, to contribute to the 6 work packages, to share the information. And again, I'd like to offer, whenever somebody wants to spread something around the EB community, especially also, especially when you make education and training courses or whatever, we are happy to send it out to all our partners. Cooperating and exchanging. And the perspectives are our next steps are for sure to revise the current questionnaires and to bring it in a form where we really get answers to evaluate, because it was a wonderful project, Evanina. We first have to evaluate what really do we need, and then we have to work on these things. We also would like to expand the EB Clinet website, maybe to an online database, and also set up an online platform for the registered partners, that they can communicate in a closed forum with all their questions and cases they have, maybe discuss difficult cases or things like that. Yeah, and we want to strengthen the network, the existing network. We like to work together with all people that can contribute something. We like to, we ask you to contribute actively, share your knowledge, progress, difficulties, news with the network, keep us informed, and we are always happy to have some feedback and to improve our own work. This is the project team, and I'd like to thank Rainer, who is running day and night for the funding of the EB House, for all those things. So EB Clinet would not have been possible without his day and night work. Thank you, Rainer. And thank you.
Thank you. Maybe one little additional information. There will be another meeting of the network, which will take place in 2015 in London. So stay tuned. Are there any questions?
Everything clear.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks again. Let me introduce Rosie Gowran from Ireland with a talk on priorities in support services for people with EB.
Hi, as Rainer said, my name is Rosie Gowran. I'm from the University of Limerick in Ireland. And as Evelina mentioned about those academics that do research, I'm one of those, but I'd like to think myself as an action academic, where I'm doing research that is meaningful, and actually at the end of it there's some action to come out of it. So I've been fortunate enough to be working in partnership with Debra Ireland to look at prioritising support services for people living with EB. I'm an occupational therapist, but I'm not a specialist in EB. My area of interest is developing sustainable healthcare provision and looking at strategies and ways of doing that. So I'm not an expert in EB like Florian in relation to, I'm not working in a clinic. I'd like to share with you today some of my philosophies and the reason why we decided to do the project we're doing, and share some of my thinking. The important thing to me as an occupational therapist or as a fellow human being is to, I believe that every human being has the right to equality of opportunity, to do, to be, to become and belong in the world. So what's important to me is about bridging the gap between people and positions. We all take on different roles in society, and sometimes there are hierarchies in that role, and it's very difficult for us to communicate. So what I'm interested in is breaking down those barriers and getting people to meet in the middle ground. Okay. So in order to build sustainable support services for people with EB, this is a model that I've created out of my doctoral research, is looking at sustainable communities of practice. So the importance of understanding context and the value placed on the places we live and how it's managed. So if you think about EB and the context in which you live, and how important this is to the people involved, the vital meaning of the provision of services, of living with EB, and how important that is. So we need to know what that is. And also to look at the pace of the system we're working in and how that moves and flows so that it meets our needs, and that it's viable, that we can maintain it when economic times are difficult. And also, in order to have effective policy, we need to make visible what we're thinking. Because we can go into a room and we can have an agenda and we may not know what the person next to us is thinking. We tick off the things on the list and then we leave. And usually there's not as much action as we'd like to happen. And if we build these foundations, we can enable people to meet their primary needs and move to being who they want to be and belonging in society as they choose to do. So this is my philosophy in relation to building strong foundations for change. Okay. So, and this research that I'm doing with Debra Ireland has come from my own doctoral studies. It's postdoctoral research, because I've developed these philosophies and thinking, and I've used a specific methodology. So I'm now reusing it to look at support services for people with EB. And I looked at developing support services for people who use wheelchair and seating, who have wheelchair and seating needs. So in order to engage people, we need to have clear aims and objectives to know what is it we're trying to find out. And developing partnerships with Debra Ireland, we need to find out what it is that Debra Ireland wants us to look at, and how we're going to do that. So in doing that, we need to be able to, my role as I would say I'm a facilitator of research rather than the researcher, because I believe that people need to be involved in the research process. And there's a lot of management involved in that in order to engage people to actually be convinced to take part in research. And I believe that we have to value all the participants in the research and nurture them in relation to that. And also we need to reflect on the information that we are getting. So it's about crossing boundaries, sharing our knowledge and our experiences. And in this process, we need to build confidence in the people who are participating in the research, and also trust, so that they have a risk-free environment to say how they're feeling, particularly when you're bringing multiple stakeholders together across the field. So you have to find ways of doing that. I'm going to share that with you, what we've done in Ireland. And also we want to produce something at the end that participants feel that actually what they've contributed, something's going to come out of it, or we're keep moving forward. So this is to build the community of practice and get people to work together. So we need some research questions, and I thought this image was nice because it's like, how do we see the wood from the trees? So there's 3 questions, and these are general because there's an awful lot of detail in this work, so I'm trying to keep it brief. So what are the experiences of the key stakeholders involved in EB services? And what are the issues that enhance and inhibit the process or the delivery system? And what support services need to be put in place in order to make that system work and be sustainable over time, no matter what the economic climate is, that we can meet those needs within the context. So context is essential when we're looking at these issues. So the main objectives then is to raise an awareness and understanding and to actively consider the complex nature of stakeholder participation in support services for people with EB. Now this will become clearer as I tell you what we did. Also to enable stakeholder self-empowerment through active participation. So finding out what stakeholders, people with EB, people who work in the hospitals, people who work in the community, people who are developing policy, what they actually think, what is their occupational perspective, the things they do in relation to EB services. And then we need to get everybody to generate a consensus, understand each other, share that understanding, and make a plan of action. So this is, to put things in context, this is a map of Ireland, and the main specialist services are based in Dublin, Crumlin Hospital for children, and then St. James's Hospital for adults. And I've just put in, there is County Clare, that's where I live, and it's approximately 2.5 hours by car to Dublin. So that's the kind of distances people may have to travel to specialist services. Now, as community services are developing, but these are not yet as adequate as we'd like them to be. And there are approximately, in the island of Ireland, 300 people with EB that we know of. That's a general approximation figure out of, and in the Republic of Ireland, the population is 4.5 million. So just to put it in context. So there's 2 phases to the research. Phase 1 is to identify the key areas for development, and phase 2 is to develop a strategy document, an actionable strategy document. So today I'm going to share with you what we've done in phase 1 in relation to identifying the key areas for development. I'm utilising what is called a soft systems approach, which was developed in the 70s by an engineer called Peter Checkland. And it's about looking at the soft systems, how people communicate and connect in order to deal with issues. So phase 1 of the work is what I'm going to present to you today, looks at the problems, the last couple of days being here, a lot of the issues in relation to EB and EB services are, there's lots of them, it's very complex. So they're very unstructured, and trying to put some structure on that. And then we want to, express those issues. What are they? So this is the first phase, what we've done. And from that, in phase 2, we will go on to define those issues in detail. And there's a very structured, you can look up soft systems approach on the internet, and it's been used in lots of places all over the world for looking at lots of different issues. So you define the issues, make a conceptual model, so how would we like this issue to be and work with, how would we work with it, and then compare it to what's actually happening and come up with some feasible way of doing that, and then take some action. It's very detailed, and phase 2 is yet to happen. So I'm going to just introduce phase 1, but just to give you a sense of the entirety of the project. So how we're going to do this, identify who the key stakeholders are, I worked with Debra Ireland to identify the stakeholders, and then involve the stakeholders in the collection and to find out what the issues are. And then in phase 2, go on to develop a strategy document. So this is to describe phase 1. So understanding perspectives, creating a rich picture. So what we tried to do was to create an image of what EB services looked like in Ireland. So step 1 then was to do individual semi-structured interviews with key stakeholder groups, and I'm going to show you those groups in a moment. So what we did, and I worked with 5 of my students, we interviewed key stakeholders and asked them what their aims, interests and motives are. We asked them why they were involved in EB services, what was important to them, and what was their motivations to stay involved. And these are, and I'll talk about the key stakeholders in a minute. And then invited those stakeholders to come and do a workshop to create a rich picture of what the service looked like. And to enhance it was a qualitative study, so to enhance that we did a national survey for families and people living, individuals with EB, just to find out a bit more detail about the services. So this is just some of the research facilitators. I just want to acknowledge the students that were involved. It was a fantastic opportunity for them and a really strong learning curve for all of us. And they were really dedicated in what they did. So 4 of the students did individual interviews, and 3 of the students did individual interviews, and 2 of them were involved in the questionnaire design. And this is just an image of us presenting back to Debra Ireland our findings. So this is probably the piece that's of interest. So these are the groups that were invited to participate in the study. So we had individuals with EB and the representatives. So 11 people were invited and 7 people agreed to participate. And 3 out of that 7 attended the workshop. There was hospital-based support services. There was 15 approximately, because as you see from other slides, there's the amount of people involved in the hospital, we left it open to see who would like to come. So out of approximately 15 people involved, 9 people decided to participate, which were both from the Crumlin and St. James's, from the adult and children's services. So we had 1 consultant, 2 occupational therapists, 2 physiotherapists, a specialist nurse, and administration and nutritionist. So, and the administrator is just as important in this process as well in relation to strategy development. So everybody involved in the process is invited to participate. Then we invited community-based support services, and out of 11, 9 people decided to participate. Unfortunately, we had GPs, a pharmacist, occupational therapist, physiotherapist, speech and language therapist, social worker, and family home and support workers, and an SNA, special needs assistants for school. And unfortunately, none of those were able to come to the workshop. Then we invited 12 people from policy development and administration. 5 people agreed to participate in interviews, and there was 1 member of government, members of Debra Ireland, and members of an NGO umbrella organisation for people with disabilities. As you can see from this number, less people decided to participate. This was our challenge in relation to the people who were invited. Mainly the people in this group were people who were advocates for change and development rather than decision makers. And this is hopefully who we will try and recruit for the next phase. People who hold the budgets and people who make decisions. And they're the people we really need to be involved in this process. So that gives you an overview of the amount of people, there was 30 people involved overall that we interviewed. And I didn't interview everybody. The students, I interviewed the policy and development administrator group, and the students interviewed the other groups. But I worked, and in order to recruit people, we sent out invitations, and then I followed up with a phone call. I made all the phone calls and asked them, was it okay if a student contacted them? Because in order to respect the participants involved and know that we weren't just doing this for research's sake. It was really important. So the findings. Now, I'm not going to present loads of quotes and things what people said because we'd be here all day. So I've developed, in order to get key stakeholders to work together, I developed this notion of the cosmopolitan narrative. And this has nothing to do with cocktails. This is to do with people coming from different perspectives and different walks of life sharing their stories, okay? So what I'm going to introduce to you is some of the key things that came out of the interviews, but also I'm going to share with you the rich pictures that came out of the workshops. And this is, I suppose, a challenge for some people, but in the end, it was a really enhancing experience. You know, for me, it was fantastic as well as for the participants. So what we did, we got people together in a workshop and we discussed the key issues that came out of the interview. So I didn't present quotes, I presented words that related to the issues and then got the participants in the workshop to discuss these words and create an image, divide them up into mixed groups and create an image of what they thought EB services looked like, okay? So this is one of the images that was created. They even used the sweets in the bowls on the tables to add to their collage. But the important thing that comes out of this is looking at the EB journey across the life course. And the discussion around this image was in relation to when a child is born with EB and, you know, the joy of a new child coming into your life and then the shock of knowing that there's something wrong and how we deal with that. And then suddenly all these people are involved in your life, all the nurses, the dermatologists, so many people suddenly involved in your life, and what is that like, and to understand that story. And then looking at the journey like a river and the things that the bottlenecks in the system that might impact on a child going to school, doing what they want to do. So looking at that journey and supporting people throughout that time. Also the issues about working together and the sense of positivity that is around. While it's a very challenging condition, there's an enormous amount of positivity and goodwill to make something happen. And in that, you can see there's a change of colours in these images, and there's lots of times when there's a lot of sadness, people, you know, children pass away, and there's a bereavement, and we need for palliative care. So these things came out in those images, and how do we support people on this journey? Because everybody's journey is very different from what I understand. So this is just the perspectives of individuals living with EB and their families, and this is just an overview from the interviews. So people talked about the impact on their daily living, and Florian mentioned, you know, in relation to occupational therapy, these are the things that we look at. And they also talked about the vital need to increase awareness amongst non-specialist healthcare professionals. And one of the stories that I relay, because I heard people mention things that professionals, particularly people who aren't specialised in the area, don't listen or don't understand what you're trying to say. And and I'm paraphrasing because I'm not using direct quote, but one participant said, you know, talked about when their child was going for a blood test, and the consultant dermatologist said, you know, make sure they don't use Band-Aids, and the family had sourced the right bandages, you know, Band-Aids to use that wouldn't tear the skin, and however, the person taking the blood didn't listen, because the way it's described by the participant is because they felt they knew better. So it's these sort of things to generate awareness are really important, and we need to think about. And then the other thing was the primary provision and access to primary needs, such as bandages and podiatry services. And one of the things that was mentioned earlier was around, you know, the whole issue around wound care and that whole area. Because in Ireland, currently bandages, while they are provided, it's very ad hoc, and people worry about having enough bandages for their child to go to school. One participant described worrying their child was starting school in 3 days, but they couldn't access the public health nurse to get the bandages because they were working part-time and they were the only person that could give to them. There has to be a better system in order to make this streamlined. And just in relation to the questionnaire, and I haven't given any detailed figures, but there was a high level of satisfaction in relation to the hospital services that are currently provided. However, a lot of the issues that the participants who were interviewed came up in relation to wound care, easy access to bandages, medical card provision in relation to getting free access to healthcare, pharmacists, the chemist being the main access to get what you need so that you just can go to your local community and they're open 6 days a week, to make it easier, podiatry services, and also education and training for GPs and others, general practitioners and people working in the community. This is another image which kind of describes the history of the EB journey, where Debra, Ireland, is 25 years old this year. And it started off in 1988, and this image shows this, and where people with EB had to fly to London, to Great Ormond Street, I believe, to actually get their care and be seen. So a lot has happened in those 25 years in relation to the high quality services that have been provided in the hospitals. However, there's a lot of issues in relation to the bureaucratic structures currently in Ireland and across the globe. There's economic downturn. However, during the economic boom, adequate infrastructures weren't put in place to meet people's needs. So now they're cutting services, and this is very challenging for people. However, the future is very bright, and there's a lot of positivity in how to develop and make things change and more sustainable. Okay, how am I doing for? Want me to keep going? Yeah. I'll speed up a bit. I won't go into. Okay, so in relation to hospital-based staff, it was really usually in research, users' perspectives are the core perspectives that are researched. So it was really important to get the other perspectives and look at the lived experience of people who work in the hospitals and the community. So time was as a tool was a theme that came up, and building that therapeutic relationship. People, are building relationships with people, and they see them from birth till they pass away, and that's a huge relationship that's built. Having enough time is always particularly seeing people who have less severe condition, having more time to spend with those people, because people who need more medical intervention, you tend to spend more time with them, and it's important to look at how that's balanced out. The bureaucratic and emotional challenges, the inconsistencies of staff. If somebody passes away, rather than the EB nurse being working in more detail with somebody else, the post is cut in half. So there's a lack of awareness there. So it's thinking about those elements and dealing with the bureaucratic structures. Also then knowing that there's room for change in relation to medical cards and bandages, hospital services available, and developing community services. Again, from the community-based, the importance of building relationship, and I think something that's come out of the conference is developing community-based services, and how do we increase awareness. The issue for this group was that they may only have one person with EB. I mean, I've been in the university 10 years, and I worked for 10 years before that. I never met anybody with EB. So the likelihood, so when somebody with EB is referred to the community service, the therapist doesn't know what to do because they don't have any information. So this is something that is highlighted, and the need for that. And having time, because that's one person out of a huge caseload of people that they have to see. So having enough time for that. And also the emotional impact on the professional was very strong in relation to how they see it, they compare it to how their own children, and how the feelings of wanting to make things better for your child, and being restricted by the structures in which they work. And then just being prepared for that. So working with the hospital and with Debra Ireland to get more information. And then for the policymakers, it's about developing awareness and understanding, communication and collaboration towards a common goal, and then looking at research and policy development. And again, there's a huge passion and drive there from the policy developers, and they relay a lot of stories that they have heard from people, and that really drives the mission to make things better. So finding solutions then, this is another image, and it talks about the care of people, generating awareness and developing research, and looking at the economic system. So this kind of encompasses the whole thing, that we need to look at how we're going to do that. So overall then, it's about, we talk about meeting people's needs, looking at wound care and bandages, medical card system, and overall funding appears to be ad hoc. Access to support services for staffing, there's a high level of turnover, so then getting consistent treatment and intervention is difficult. Also then, community services, while developing, need more support. And from this generating awareness, and the word awareness, and this is something that's come to me out of doing this work, because I've read all the transcripts. While I didn't do all the interviews, I did read the 30 transcripts to understand everything that was going on. It's more about consciousness. It's more, to me, it's about generating a consciousness rather than just an awareness, because people can say, oh yeah, I'm aware of that. But it's the consciousness. And I talk to my students about the relative test. How would I like it to be for me, for my family, for my friends, for the people that I love? So it's developing a consciousness around the impact that EB has on people's lives, but also about the importance of developing these infrastructures to meet people's needs, no matter what they are. And again, time in relation to the urgency, and I think in relation to the development of treatments, time and urgency is there. But also it's important that we prioritise, and that we don't, in Ireland there's a tendency to patch things up, rather to react rather than take strategic action, because we need to do this now, and we don't think about the long-term effects. So it's really about being planning and prioritising. And in relation to education, training and research. Okay, so where to next? Our next phase, the idea is taking those key issues and defining them all in a workshop with key stakeholders. But what we feel is we need to engage more stakeholders than from the original study to generate a more comprehensive document and get more people involved, particularly those who are involved in decision making, and that there's some mandate at the end that when we have this document that something's going to be done. It's not just going to gather dust. The other aspect that's come out of it is we really want to get an understanding of the lived experience of what it's like to live with EB for families and for people with EB from an occupational therapy perspective. So the idea is that we'll recruit occupational therapists as research assistants to spend time with people in the families to get a sense of what it's like. So looking at the impact on their occupational performance, what they do and how they do it and what they want to do. So occupational therapy is all about enabling people to do what they want to do. So it's to really get a sense of that. And in order to then, we want to put a cost on that so policymakers can see what the impact of that lived experience is like, the cost of it. So we're working with the health economists in the University of Limerick to develop a framework of how we would actually measure the cost of that, so that we can actually, because at the end of the day, when you have a budget, you want to know, what is the financial impact or the economic impact for that, and that's what's been asked of us as well. But I think it would give a bigger picture for that. Okay, so I'm now nearly finished, but this is because I'm not an EB specialist, and I feel this is the first Debra International or first Debra conference I've been at, and I suppose it's, when I reflected on the experience of doing the research, this is what I wrote down. Living with EB and supporting people goes much more than skin deep. It does, as one participant put it, teach you about life. There is no doubt that the lived experience of key stakeholders in this study expresses many levels of emotion, both positive and heart-rending. However, there appears to be a willingness and drive and urgency to see better support services for everyone. And I think that really, the positivity, that means that, you know, and I can see it here as well, and there's no hierarchy in this room. It's about everybody working together, and I think that really shows. Thank you.
I'll take this one. Sorry, short and sweet, but just on behalf of Debra Ireland, Rosie's been an absolute pleasure to work with, and she is passionate about, and she's got bitten by the bug that we all have, and she's done the amount of work she's done outside her day-to-day work on this project, and it is the ultimate in professionalism, and the level of detail and accuracy in this research is amazing. On behalf of everyone in Debra and from the Debra International perspective, thank you so much.
Are there any questions?
I appreciate that you're all, this is the
sorry.
last talk, so I appreciate your attention. So.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask if there are any questions now. Looks like, okay, there is one there.
Hi. Oh, that's a bit better today. It's wonderful to see the research being done in such a professional way, but I'm just wondering, from a research perspective, when the starting question was, what do EB community need in the way of sort of community support? I can't remember exactly how it was worded. Why are they only a quarter of the study group? Why wasn't the study actually just focusing on them and what they wanted?
Okay, just to clarify the use of the word community, because it's the community of practice, so it's the community of all the people that are involved in delivering services for people with EB. So it wasn't just based on people who work in the community, as we know community in relation to community services, so it's the broader aspect. Is that okay?
Durante il workshop ha chiesto aiuto a formatori privati, di enti privati, oppure ha usato i formatori che lavorano nella sua azienda ospedaliera?
I did the workshops. I facilitated them. Yeah, because I'm an occupational therapist. That's why we had pictures and we did collages and we were creative. You know, that's part of what I do is facilitation to engage people, and that's what I love doing. So yeah, I facilitated those. Of course it can be replicated, and I think it would be about giving people the tools to do this. I believe from an occupational therapy perspective, occupational therapists are very good at this. When I went for funding originally for my original study in looking at wheelchair and seating provisions services, and they asked me, you know, who are you to do this, or how are you going to be able to facilitate? And it's the skills as occupational therapists that we have in order to, our job is to hear people's stories, understand their narratives, and try and enable them to do what they want to do. And it's not just about the client or the patient, it's about everybody involved in the system to understand that, because we want to enhance everybody's life, those who are working in the services as well as those who are using the services. So, yeah. So we can talk about that in the future.
I don't see any other hand. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So, before I hand over to Claudia, two very short announcements. Gina?
Thanks, Reiner. I'm not sure if everyone knows, but Rosie was speaking about awareness, and we all know that that's really important for EB around the world, right? October 25th to the 31st, every year, annually, is International EB Awareness Week. And many of you hold events or do different things during that time frame in order to create awareness and get media attention and do fundraisers. I can look around the room and see some representatives of Debra who've done some amazing things during International EB Awareness Week. So I just wanted to let you know that there is a new global poster that has photographs of many children, many people with EB from around the world. And I'm going to be sending that poster out. It's editable this year. So the main information that's in the middle, the main message, is no longer there. It's editable. You can have your own graphic artist insert whatever message you, Debras, want to add. I'll include a copy of what Debra Canada is doing so that you can use that message in your own language if you wish. But it will be editable, and that'll be sent out as soon as I get back to Canada in a couple of days. So just wanted to remind you of that. And please try and do something during International EB Awareness Week, even if it means writing to your local media and just letting them know, hi, I'm Debra, whatever country, and I want to let you know this is what we do, and it's really important what we do, and we want the world to know that there's a disease called epidermolysis bullosa, and it's important that these people with EB be supported. Thank you.
So, next meeting, doesn't work. So it will be in Paris, in France. Debra, France will be happy to host us. It might be even in this complex where you see the pictures. Obviously, it's very close to the Seine. And it will be from September 19th to the 21st, 2014.
Allora, cercherò di essere più veloce possibile. Considerazione finale. A me è piaciuto questo congresso. È piaciuto perché penso che abbia dato qualcosa a ciascuno di noi e che ciascuno di noi abbia dato qualcosa a tutti gli altri. Credo che abbiamo fatto un passo avanti. Credo che la diga della quale parlavo l'altro ieri abbiamo contribuito a rafforzarla in questi 3 giorni. Quindi sicuramente è stata una cosa positiva. Il livello degli interventi è stato adeguato, eccezionale. Le cose che abbiamo imparato, secondo me, ci hanno arricchito in qualche modo. E siamo un po' più forti di prima. Questa è la speranza. Quindi ci vedremo molto volentieri a Parigi. E vi auguro un buon ritorno a tutti quanti nei vostri paesi di provenienza. Non dimenticate l'Italia e Debra Italia. E volevo far parlare Beatrice un attimo per salutarvi tutti quanti.
Salve a tutti, ho avuto modo di conoscere tante belle persone in questi 3 giorni, anch'io sono, come mio padre, sono molto contenta di ciò. La strada che abbiamo avanti da fare è ancora lunga per avere dei miglioramenti importanti nella lotta contro le B, però penso che in questi 3 giorni abbiamo fatto tutti insieme molti passi avanti. Quindi niente, voglio ringraziarvi tutti. Grazie per essere stati presenti in questi 3 giorni e ci rivediamo l'anno prossimo.